And I just lost it because I saw my daughter laying there and I just lost it. But the way you acted, the way you describe responding to me is almost like you're telling me that you had already known, because your initial reaction would have been, oh my God. The initial reaction has to be, oh my God, my daughter's dead. That's the initial reaction. It has to be that. But you're telling me that you got down and kissed her or hugged on her, or checked on her, or removed this, remove that. You got down and you told on yourself. You got down and you tampered with the crime scene. Your first response when you found JonBenet was to tamper with the crime scene. Hold on here. We're talking about control. Your first response when you found your daughter under a sheet was to tamper with the sheet without calling the authorities. The authorities were secondhand. You knew if the cop went down there first, when the cop first got there, if it is true that the cop got there and went down there and checked around, you knew that the cop went down there and checked around the basement when they first got there and didn't find anything. You knew it because you were standing there, you were standing in the kitchen, and the cop could go to the stairs and go down to the basement. You watched that cop, you and your friends, watch the cop go down to the basement and come back up the stairs and say, I ain't find nothing. That's what you watched. But then you said, I took off down the stairs and I ran down the stairs and I was looking, and then I opened the door and there she was laying down there. She was under a sheet. How'd you know that was her? She was under a sheet. The sheet, where did she come from, John? If we have an intruder, John, that's what you're telling me. If we have an intruder, we have been talking about before that the intruder is all over the house. What kind of intruder is this? We've already laid out, I'm not going to rehash, we've already laid out the fact that the intruder took his time in the house and this and that and the third, and sat down and wrote this 2.5-page ransom note and this, that, and the third, didn't bring anything with him, didn't bring any weapons with him, because he knew the Ramseys' home so well. He knew that they wouldn't put on the alarm system. He knew when they were leaving. He knew that John and Patsy had brunch. You know what? Because I think that they went to 2 events that day. I got to do my research some more, but I'm kind of confused. Did they go to 1 event or 2 events? They opened presents. If I'm trying to remember the timeline, they opened presents in the morning, and then they had breakfast afterwards, I think Patsy said. So I think they said in the deposition with Mr. Hoffman and their lawyer, Lynn Wood, they said that, I think they were saying that we got up around 6 to open presents. And you estimate from about 6 to 7, we can estimate maybe around 6 to 7 to open presents and stuff like that, because JonBenet and Patsy were, JonBenet and Burke. I don't know where John and Patsy fit in with the opening stuff like that. Maybe they got 1 or 2 presents and this, that, and the third or whatever. But you can estimate maybe an hour and 30 minutes, because Burke and JonBenet were tearing through those presents. So about an hour and a half. And so, you know, 6 to 7, 7:30. And so from there, they eat breakfast. The intruder supposedly was watching them the entire time. Under the guise of a foreign faction, let's walk it down from 7:30 or 8 o'clock to about 9:30, 10 o'clock. I'm making pancakes, something like that, Patsy says in the deposition. I'm making pancakes and I'm making breakfast while John is packing up the plane. That's about midday, getting ready to fly out and leave. But then they go to a luncheon, I think it was, and then later on they go to a dinner party. Or they just go to the dinner party later on at night and there was never a luncheon. I'm not sure. But apparently the intruder was smart enough to watch them and know what they were going to do that day. The intruder was smart enough to watch them and know what they were going to do that day. So apparently the intruder did a stakeout. If it was someone outside of John's company, then they would have had to stake out the place. They would have had to stay there all day and night to stake out the place. Simply because you don't know, it's Christmas. You don't know the day to day. It's Christmas. Unless somebody from inside the company knew, which would be the allegations against Jeff Merrick and stuff like that. But getting back to my point, this intruder comes in, all your materials to go haywire on your daughter, Where did that blanket come from? Where did he pull the blanket from? Have we identified that? Somebody help me. Have we identified where that blanket came from? Because what you're telling me is, I know that blanket wasn't down there. That blanket was not down there in that wine cellar. Couldn't be. I didn't see no blankets. When I looked at the pictures of the basement, I ain't see no blankets. I saw shrubbery. I saw Dr. Pepper. I saw the suitcases. I don't know why I wanted to say suit kai. Syllabi. I don't know why I wanted to say suit kai or platypi. I don't know why I would say that. But anyways, I saw the suitcases, but I didn't see a cover or a blanket. Where did that blanket come from? And this is where I got that problem, because it's like there's so many things that this guy was like, oh, shoot, this intruder was so resourceful that he was like, oh, dang, I made a mistake. I used your pen and your pad. Would you be so kind? Give me your pen and your pad. Please. Absolutely. Would you be so kind to allow me to sit down and eat pineapples and milk? Would you be so kind to lend me your flashlight? Thank you so much. Would you be so kind to lend me your paintbrush and your cords? Please. Absolutely. Now, after I commit this crime by mistake, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go find the cover. Oh, shoot. She just screamed. I'm not trying to get out of here fast at all because I know they can't hear me. Smooth criminal. Smart. I know y'all can't hear me, so I know I got all the time in the world to cover up and stage this. So guess what? I like JonBenet. She's cool. I like her. I'm gonna go find the cover. That's what I'm gonna do. I wonder where they keep the cover at. So can you imagine the intruder running back upstairs, finding the linen closet, and been like, I gotta find a cover, because that cover was kind of small. If I remember correctly, the cover was fit just right, almost. It wasn't that big of a cover. But it's like, you know what? JonBenet has been so nice to me. I gotta do it right. Which cover would work to cover JonBenet with? What? Where did that cover come from? Somebody had an intricate knowledge of the cover. Getting back to my original point, why am I saying all this? As I backtrack through, because the first thing that you did was pull back a cover and say, oh my goodness, and lean down on your daughter instead of, oh my God, I think I found it. Oh my God. This is my problem with that story. What Patsy and John Dean said, he brought her up, and then Patsy did the same thing. I just knelt beside her, and I just knew, and I just knelt beside her, and why are y'all kneeling beside a dead body? Who are you kneeling beside a dead body? And the cop standing there watching you, allowed you to kneel beside a dead body? What? A cop allowed you to kneel, but bruh. You're lying to me, man. You're lying. What cop worth their weight in gold, who is honest and not corrupt? We're assuming in the best cases, I don't want to get into a debate about, oh, cops are this and they can be corrupt and the cops did the worst. You should actually look at how bad the Boulder police were. I understand all that. But I'm saying, what cop, if we're going to say that, we have to assume that the whole department is trash. I'm not saying they can't be. Who knows? I don't know them. They can be trash. I'm just saying, if we assume that at least one of these guys were not a bad apple, the cop comes and says, because we don't have any camera in the house, we don't have any witness other than the she said kind of deal. And so you're telling me that the cop told you to go down there, the same cop that was standing there told you to go down there and search. You went and searched, brought the body back up, and that cop sat there and watched you contaminate the crime scene even more without telling you, oh, dang, we got a body. All y'all have to get out right now. The cop didn't say that. The cop just let y'all stand around and watch the body on the floor under a cover. The cop watched you put your hands all over the cover and uncover the body and put your face on a dead body and didn't say anything. Nah, you tripping. Because Lori here is telling me that, and I'm pretty sure Lori told him, John, go home. Don't say nothing. Don't do nothing. Lay low. And John was like, I can't do it. I got to control it. And this is the downfall of John Ramsey. John has to control it. And so that makes me wonder, how much did you have to do with this, John? Maybe there was an intruder. Let's assume there was. Why are you covering so much for the intruder? What are you doing? Why do you have to cover for them? You're going to great lengths to cover for this intruder. Why? That don't make sense. Why would you contaminate, bruh? Our feeling was that holding a news conference or releasing a statement would call attention to the company. And John went right out and did the opposite. How many news conferences did John and Patsy hold? How many statements did they release? For Christ's sakes, they wrote a dang book. 440 pages worth of a book and wouldn't stop. Distance, talk to me, is essential. When a CEO's private life is in turmoil, it's essential to communicate that the normal operations of the company are not affected. Employees, customers, suppliers, shareholders need to know that it's business as usual. That's what Lockheed Martin is trying to do. We want you gone. The sooner the better. We want you gone in the next 3 months. We trying to sell you. We want you gone. The sooner the better, to show that none of this is affecting us. Because people are going to ask, Lockheed, what kind of company are you that you're allowing this to go on? We believe he's guilty. Beyond that, subtle messages can help distance the company from the troubled executive without showing a lack of support. Access Graphics did it when Wagner revealed that Lockheed Martin security officers found no substance in a theory that JonBenet's unaliving was related to Access Graphics' foreign business dealings as reportedly written in the ransom note, even though John Ramsey himself had appeared on CNN saying, I don't know if it was an attack on me, on my company. John, what are you doing? What are you doing, John? What you got going on? What are you doing? Your media person said, don't go talk to nobody. Distance the company. We have nothing to do with this. And this is why I'm concerned. Because whoever this was who wrote this note, whoever it was, said, we don't have any problem with your company. We just got a problem with the U.S. And Lockheed was like, that ain't got nothing to do with any of us. And you took your behind right on television. And you said specifically, I don't know what it has to do with. I don't know if it's an attack on me. I don't know if it's an attack on my company. Well, John, the note said, we got to be consistent. The note said, we respect your company, but not the country it serves. And after that, your company was never mentioned again. That's why I have problems with the ransom note, because nothing that's not consistent. You started off the very thesis of that letter. You got to have a strong thesis statement. And that the writer came out with a thesis statement of, let's focus on your company. But then all of a sudden, setting the tone for the rest of the article or the rest of the note, you just completely diverted from the company in any way. Because how do we get from you doing something with your company, John? You're doing something with your company, John. And for that purpose, we got to come get your daughter. Where's the connection? Make it make sense, because we are talking about a foreign faction who has surveilled. They're smart enough to get surveillance on you. They're smart enough to tell when you go to the bank and when you don't. They're smart enough to see you when you sleep and know when you're awake and when you're bad and good. So this smart foreign faction knows all of that, but they can't tell you the relationship between this company and your daughter. What's going on with your daughter that has to be tied to the company? And you come out here and you have your own narrative where the company is like, this has nothing to do with us. Sabotage fest. This has nothing to do with us. And John is like, well, it might have something to do with y'all. In effect, the company is saying, leave us out of this. Remember, CEOs often personify a company and vice versa. Therefore, when a CEO is in trouble, The company's collective psyche is thrown into a tailspin. Internal communications vehicles such as intranets, newsletters, bulletin boards, and memos should be fully leveraged to keep information flowing to employees. Access Graphics set up crisis hotlines for employees and brought in trauma counselors to help employees cope with the crisis. We also had multiple company-wide meetings in the days following the unaliving, says Wagner. It gave us an opportunity to discuss generally what we were doing in terms of communication and why. I think the time we spent explaining ourselves was critical for maintaining a sense of direction and restoring morale. But John, as we know, it took a different direction. If you're not guilty, then why are you acting guilty? If you're not guilty, then why are you acting guilty? Why are you acting funny? Well, you acting weird to me. Why are you acting weird? I haven't done anything. You guys are doing this and that. Yo, when you tell me, because it's like I'm just thinking about this stuff in light of everything that the crime scene, in light of everything that I'm reading. It's like the likelihood of this stuff happening. You're telling me that you went down and you saw a body and you immediately interacted with the body, and then you brought the body back up, and then the cop watched you interact with the body, both of y'all, and then clear the crime scene from then on, and it's the cop's fault? The cops blundered the investigation? No, we got cops saying, yo, when we rolled up to the crib, they told us, watch what you do. Don't get out of pocket. Why can't they get out of pocket? Because this is a famous executive, especially here. He's entrepreneur of the year. They know that. Big in the community. As somebody mentioned, possibly highly political. Got political affiliations, at least in the Boulder area, because he's working for essentially Lockheed Martin, which is essentially, he can brag and boast about working for the Department of Defense. He can do that. That's fair. So this is the John Ramsey that we're dealing with. This is how I want to build a framework to understand how we can jump from here to here, and how it's plausible that we at least work from the outside in to see how John would handle something like this. And why would John, if John had nothing to do with this and it was an outside individual that did this, why would John and Patsy feel compelled at all to explain anything? Why do John and Patsy need to explain anything? Because when the first 48 hours are the most important, typically you just get out of the way and you say, we're fully cooperating with the investigation and the cops are doing their job. We're trying to let authorities. But what you're telling me is that you immediately came up with theories for the cops to, and you came up with a way that you wanted the investigate. Now I'm really concerned, because the manipulation and the implementation of a John Ramsey plan is coming into play. We want the investigation to go like this. Go back and watch the interviews of Patsy talking to the police. Her voice is not strong. It's not certain. She's barking, but there's no force behind the bark. She's like, well, I don't know. You tell me. You don't know what I know. You're nervous because you're like, do you believe me? And John is like, just stay in there, Patsy. Just stick with it, Patsy. Just tell them what I tell you to say. And Patsy's like, because Patsy's younger. She's significantly younger. And John is like, just do what I tell you to do, Patsy. And Patsy's like, talking in circles. Well, I did. And John is a little bit more seasoned in talking in circles. So from the very beginning, it looks like you had a stronghold, or stronger hold than I think we imagine or we understand. You had a stronger hold on that investigation than what has been, I think, anything that I've read that has been expressed. So when we say you had political power, we mean that, because you're controlling the cops. Why would a cop roll up and be like, white gloves, don't offend this family? How? Without you saying a word, how would the detective show up and already know who sent the detective and told the detective ahead of time, hey, yo, when you go over there, don't you touch nothing. When you go over there, watch what you do and say. That's a prominent man over there. Because not only do you have to have the ability to talk to the cops and get an understanding in some of these summits and company meetings and stuff like that, or these events, these community events where you have the opportunity to talk to the police and make friends, because I know you did. but there has to be some sort of assurance of power. Have we done any investigation on Ramsey's connection with anybody in the police department? See, that's what I'm saying. Bank records. Do we have phone records? A lot of these things could clear up that are available. A lot of these things could clear up the communication between Ramsey and the police prior to, Ramsey and friends prior to, right? And after. If we had that communication available, we could see. Maybe we do. Maybe I just haven't seen it. But we can clearly see John Ramsey being very intentional about controlling the narrative despite what the company said. So it naturally follows logically then that John would be controlling the police investigation more than they initially let on. So we know, and that's why I'm questioning anything in the house. And I was questioning, did y'all even go to that party like you told me you did? Did you do that? Until I saw pictures at the party. I was like, cool, we established the timeline of the party. But you told me y'all went home and went to bed around 9:30. That's what you told me. I don't believe you did. I believe y'all were still up putting the train together. I believe Burke came home and wanted to put the train set together because he didn't have you the first part of the day because they opened presents and then Patsy got to cooking breakfast while you went outside and loaded the plane. Where was the plane? Was the plane in the driveway? Of course not. Where was the plane? So that means that you would have had to leave and go down the street somewhere to load the plane. Correct me if I'm wrong. But my theory is that you would have had to go load the plane somewhere else, so you wouldn't have been there. So Burke would have either had to try to start the train tracks by himself and finish, but he may have gotten confused. I know we had one, and I think we put that thing together once we finally figured it out. That thing was together all of about 2 days, and then we broke it. We started using it because we knew the ends were sharp, and the ends got broke, but we started using it we hurt each other with it a couple of times, just because being silly, messing with each other, play fighting, roughhousing and stuff like that, walking up behind each other and boom, 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 just kind of playing around or whatever. So it's possible that Burke went and tried to put it together. But then later on that night, when they came home from the party, hey dad, or when they came home from brunch or whatever, when he came back from putting the gifts in the plane, he said, hey dad, can you help me put this together? No son, I can't. I just got a phone call that we need to go to a luncheon. We'll put it together later, sport. Cool. Later on, we come home from luncheon. I'm tired. I want to take a nap because we have to get ready for a dinner party. We get ready for the dinner party. We go to a dinner party. Dad, come on. We've been gone all day. I want to put together my train tracks. And so John will go down there and help him put the train tracks together. But then I can't. It's Christmas night, probably 10:30, 11:30. By the time we get done putting it together, I can't go to bed. I want to stay up with this all night. Man, y'all know what it's like to want to continue to play with your toys and stuff like that on Christmas night. Yo, stay up all night playing the video game and stuff like that we just got for Christmas or what have you. Stay up all night putting our shoes on and putting our clothes on. Oh, I'm gonna look fresh when I go to school, man. I could put this and all such as that. So you telling me that Burke was wide awake and fell asleep in the car, but I'm pretty sure he woke up and they said, come on, walk inside. But when Burke got in there, he said, Mom, I'm hungry. But also too, not only am I hungry, but I want to go downstairs and play. All right. Patsy's she's a softie. Patsy's a softie. Come on. Patsy's a softie. She argued with JonBenet about what JonBenet was going to wear, and JonBenet talked back. JonBenet said, I don't want to wear that. Patsy was like, all right, fine, but I'm upset with you. And JonBenet was like, I don't care. I don't want to wear that. So Patsy's a softie. She's going to let Burke go down there. Come on, John. Let him go down there. But babe, we got to get up in the morning. They can sleep on the plane. Patsy's like, they can sleep on the plane, whatever. And John's like, cool. Let him go down there and play. JonBenet wakes up. That's fine. Let him go down there and play. That's where I'm at right now. Something may have happened. There's a theory on that, a really good theory. I need to discuss it with y'all. Really good theory on that. Some things that I didn't know about that happened. That's tough. But we see that John clearly, and I'll close it out on this. We see that John clearly must control even the narrative of the police and the lengths to which he's going to go to. And he has to have the backing power in the police force for the police to get it. So when you hear John and Patsy Ramsey come over the radio, you got to have somebody in the station that night, or somebody that you can call and say, Chief, we got a problem. Call off your dogs. And the chief calls in to Detective Arndt and says, watch what you're doing. Don't do this. Don't do that. To give specific instructions. When you send your boy, don't do this. Don't do that. This is why I got a question with the timeline. Because anywhere in there, when you're trying to hide it, you could have called Lynn Wood or whoever your attorney was at the time. Lynn could have called the chief of police and said, hey, we got a situation. And then the detective said, and then Patsy's about to call. Patsy calls and said, call your detective, send your detective over. Call real quick, send your detective over. Make it look like this just happened. Send them over. Because I think there was reports that Linda Arndt was going back and forth. I don't know if it was a police chief, but it was somebody, it was her superior or something like that. I think I read somewhere. So we're starting to see that John has control mainly, but why? If it was an intruder, according to John. John said it was intruder. Why are there so many mistakes coming from you, John? That's what I need to know. But that's the video. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you. Let me know what you think in the comments. Share, subscribe. You know what it is. Appreciate you once again. And until next video, take it easy.